Okay, we've talked and we have seen that Socrates has laid out a plan or a vision for an ideal polis or city-state. And we learned that his view of an ideal polis is a hierarchical society. And we talked about what that is. A hierarchical society is a society arranged in order, layers of rank there, some higher and some lower. And we saw that there's a problem that goes with that, and that has to do with conflict between the different social classes. And we saw that Socrates, one of the ways he dealt with that was what he called the noble lie, in telling the citizens that they were all connected, all made of metals there, and that would have built a type of social cohesion. But so important is this idea of a problem when you have social classes. It's so important that Socrates and Plato go to greater lengths to talk about this. And so we learn today, and this is similar to what we were talking about, is that a problem with a hierarchical society is factionalism. And factionalism just means conflict between the classes. And this is always a problem. If you have been in the Foundations of Western Thought class, when we talk about Karl Marx and communism, this is something that Karl Marx had and the communists tried to deal with and eliminate in their ideal society. And of course, the problem is that in all societies there are great disparities of wealth. And the strong, the powerful, the upper class always appropriates a disproportionate share of the wealth for themselves, and this breeds resentment from the other classes. So here we have Socrates in another attempt to solve this problem. Socrates says in his ideal city or polis, the upper class, the guardians, the privileged ones, would not be allowed to own personal property. They would live in common housing, something like dormitories. Their children would be raised in common. And Socrates says that this would be done to promote concern for the city, not for themselves. There would be no sense in their trying to get ahead when they're not going to even be allowed to own personal property or acquire any wealth. What we refer to as the bronze classes would be the workers, the laborers. A large slice of the wealth would go to them. They could have personal property. They could have money. They could have marriage. And Socrates claims this is fair because these people produce the wealth. Now, Adeimantus, one of the boys, raises a legitimate question. In a case like this, how will the guardians be happy? And Socrates answers. And he says, in this arrangement, it will produce an overall harmony, and all citizens will find it satisfying. The bronze. Yes, they labor and they work, yet they have all the goods and the wealth. The silver. This would be the military, the spirited ones. They get to employ their competitive drive in doing something that they love. The gold, the wisest. It's natural for them to rule others. It is natural for them to make decisions. It's natural for them to make laws and to organize things for people. And Socrates says that this is a just political model. And he says now he is ready to transfer this pattern. We're going to take this pattern here. He says he's going to transfer this pattern to the individual. And he says we will see what makes a just human being. or a just person. Socrates says the three social classes are like the three elements of the soul, of the individual soul. There is a desiring part to the soul, which consists of blind urges, desires, passions. There's a part of the soul that he calls the will, and this gives a person a resolution to follow a certain course of action. And then there is a part of the soul that is rational, or what we would call reason, and reason can determine the proper conduct of life. So justice, or a just human being, is when you have a harmonious relationship among these dispositions of the soul. And in a just person, reason rules. Reason directs the will controls desires, passions, and emotions.